They believed the sunrise itself depended on a god's courage. Every morning, Ra sailed his golden boat across the sky, only to battle a monstrous serpent in the black void of night. Had he lost, the sun would never rise again, and Egypt, they thought, would vanish into chaos. Yet behind this myth lay a civilization shaped, ruled, and even justified by its faith. Religion in ancient Egypt was not a private matter, it was the pulse of the entire world. Let's travel back over 5,000 years ago to the banks of the Nile River, a narrow green ribbon of life cutting through endless desert. Without the Nile's rhythm, Egypt would have been barren. Without her gods, the floods, kings, and even morality made no sense. For Egyptians, the line between the divine and the mortal was as thin as the morning mist. The gods were not distant. They were everywhere in the flooding waters, in the starry sky, in the slow turning of seasons. Their religion was not simply worship, it was an agreement, a cosmic contract. If humans kept order and ritual, the gods would keep the world alive. In the beginning, there was only darkness and water, none, the primordial abyss. Then, from that eternal sea, rose a mound of earth. Upon it stood Atum, the self-created god, who coughed or whispered the world into existence. From him came Shu, the air, and Tefnut, the moisture, then Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. This story, told and retold in temples and tombs, explained more than creation. It revealed a principle. The universe was born from order, rested from chaos. The Egyptians called this order Ma'at, truth, balance, harmony, justice, to live righteously, to rule fairly, even to irrigate properly. These were acts of sustaining Ma'at, and holding that balance was the duty of one person above all, the pharaoh. The pharaoh wasn't merely a ruler. He was the bridge between gods and humans, the offspring of the sun itself. In the early dynasties, kings claimed to be living gods, embodiments of Horus, the falcon god of the sky. Every law, every monument, every ritual reinforced this union. When the king performed temple ceremonies, he didn't do so as a man, but as a god, maintaining the cosmic cycle. Imagine the rituals, the scent of incense rising with the desert wind, gilded statues carried through temple halls, priests chanting words unchanged for centuries. It was theater in the highest sense, sacred drama, in which Egypt ensured that dawn would return. But religion was not static. Over the centuries, new gods rose to prominence. Old ones blended. Myths evolved. At the heart of this dynamism lay one of history's first great spiritual experiments. Beyond the king's temples, ordinary Egyptians filled their homes with hundreds of small clay idols. Some prayed to Hathor, goddess of love and motherhood. Others sought protection from Bastet, the cat goddess. Farmers thanked Osiris for the Nile's bounty, while craftworkers honored Ptah, patron of creators. These weren't vague pantheons, they were intimate presences. Each town had its own sacred family, each region its own favorite deities. A god worshipped as a humble crocodile in one place might reign as a cosmic power in another. Religion was a conversation temples spoke for the gods, but people whispered their own prayers every day. Among all these stories, none struck deeper than that of Osiris. He was a god-king who brought civilization to Egypt until his jealous brother Set tore him apart and scattered his pieces across the land. Grieving, Osiris's wife Isis reassembled his body and breathed life into him once more. Osiris became lord of the afterlife, judge of souls. Isis became the model of devotion. For Egyptians, this myth changed everything. Death was not an ending, it was transformation. Osiris had shown that life could continue beyond the tomb if one's heart was pure and the gods found it light enough to balance against the feather of Ma'at. That belief gave rise to the spectacular burial practices Egypt is now known for. The pyramids weren't monuments to greed, they were machines of faith, designed to preserve the pharaoh's soul for eternity. to ensure his rebirth among the stars. By the time of the New Kingdom, religion had become Egypt's greatest institution. Massive temples like Karnak and Luxor weren't just houses of prayer, they were economic powerhouses, controlling immense lands, granaries, and labor forces. The priesthood grew rich and influential. Sometimes, their power rivaled even that of the pharaoh. And at the center of their devotion stood one formidable deity, Amun, king of the gods, blended over centuries with Ra, the sun god. To worship Amun-Ra was to honor both the invisible force that sustained the universe and the visible light that gave it life. Egypt's religion had become a complex web of theology, politics, and spectacle. But deep currents of change were stirring. Around 1350 before the Common Era, Pharaoh Akhenaten looked upon this grand system and tried to upend it completely. He declared that all the gods of Egypt were false, save one, Aten, the visible disk of the sun. Abandoning the old gods, Akhenaten built a new capital at Amarna, dedicated solely to Aten's worship. He banned the name of Amun, defaced temples, and rewrote prayers that had endured for 2,000 years. It was a revolution in thought, the world's first recorded flirtation with monotheism, but it tore Egypt apart. The old priests seethed, the people confused, the empire weakened. After Akhenaten's death, the backlash was swift. The boy king Tutankhamun restored the old gods, reopened the temples, and returned Egypt to its familiar rhythm. Akhenaten's name was erased from monuments, his dream of one god nearly erased from memory. Still, the question he posed about divine unity, about whether all gods might be one, is one that would echo long after Egypt's grandeurs faded. As centuries passed, Egyptian religion absorbed new influences. Greek, Persian, Roman, the old gods shifted shape but never lost their shine. Even when Christianity arrived and temples fell silent, the hieroglyphs on their walls still whispered stories of Ma'at, of Ra's rising, of Osiris's judgment. The faith that once gave life to pharaohs and pyramids dissolved not through destruction, but transformation, its symbols reappearing across centuries, in new forms, in new prayers. Ancient Egypt's religion was more than myth, it was the architecture of their entire reality. It ordered their time, justified their kings, gave meaning to their deaths. Through its gods, Egypt built the longest living civilization in history, sustained by faith in the fragile, eternal balance between chaos and order. Even now, every sunrise, the rebirth of light from darkness, echoes their oldest belief, that life, if guided by balance, can triumph eternally. If you enjoyed exploring the faith that shaped the sands and stones of the Nile, subscribe for more journeys into the hidden stories that built our world. The next chapter of history awaits.